Maybe the idea that they regard as absurd, namely that psychic powers were cultivated by ancient civilizations, that they could use powers of the human mind that we have allowed to lapse.
For years, we thought we understood the story of human history. We believed our oldest knowledge came from ancient cities, old temples, and buried ruins. But in late 2023, something unexpected was found deep in the Gulf of Mexico, in a place no one was ever meant to reach. An object far older than any book we know, hidden, sealed, perfectly preserved. And when experts studied it, they realized something wasn't right. And maybe our past isn't what we think it is. To understand how this began, we need to go back to the moment it was found. The discovery in the Gulf. It began as a routine research mission in late 2023, when a team of scientists was mapping the Gulf of Mexico to study how the coastline had changed after the last ice age. They used side-scan sonar to map the seafloor in vast swaths, recording natural shapes, old slopes, and buried land features. For a long time, the readings looked normal, until one area showed straight edges and sharp angles that did not look natural. The team scanned it again and observed the same precise pattern, prompting them to deploy a remotely operated vehicle to investigate. When the camera reached the bottom, a large stone platform appeared, with blocks arranged in a carefully designed pattern and almost no erosion. And in the center was a sealed entrance made from a dark, smooth material that looked engineered. Nothing in known regional history matched this structure, and its condition suggested it had been built on land long before the water rose, placed there with intention, and sealed to protect whatever was inside. The team moved forward carefully because they knew the chamber had remained closed for thousands of years, and opening it too quickly could damage whatever was inside. The remotely operated vehicle approached the sealed doorway, and the scientists took a closer look at the material covering it. It was dark, smooth, and shiny, almost like glass, and it seemed stronger than normal rock. It looked as if it had been made to resist water, pressure, and time. They examined the edges of the seal and found no cracks, gaps, or breaks. That meant the chamber had likely stayed untouched since the day it was closed. Using the robotic arms, they worked slowly along a small corner of the doorway, brushing away sediment and testing tiny sections of the surface. Every movement was measured because they did not want to break the seal or disturb the contents inside. After hours of careful work, a thin opening was created. The camera moved through it and entered the chamber. The space inside was round and surprisingly clean. The walls were smooth. There was almost no sand or marine growth, which was unusual for something that had been underwater for so long. At the center of the chamber stood a single stone pedestal. On top of it was a rectangular object wrapped in metallic fabric of dull golden color. Nothing else was placed inside, which made it clear that this one object had been stored and protected with purpose. The team now faced a new step. They needed to bring the object to the surface so they could learn what it was, how it was made, and why it had been sealed away for so many years. The impossible book. Once the object was safely brought to the surface, it was placed in a clean laboratory so it could be studied without damage, because the team now needed to understand what it was and why it had been kept inside the sealed chamber for so long. The scientists first examined the outer wrapping and found it was made of fragile metal threads that looked like gold and copper, woven tightly together, which had prevented water from reaching the inside even after thousands of years underwater. Under the microscope, the threads appeared uniform and extremely small, indicating that the fabric was made with advanced skill that modern tools found difficult to replicate. When the wrapping was slowly opened, the researchers were surprised to see a bound book with smooth, flexible pages still in good condition. The material felt like paper but was not paper, and when tested, it showed signs of being a special synthetic fiber that was strong and resistant to decay. Inside the pages were symbols, drawings, and diagrams that looked scientific and detailed, including images of the human brain and lines that resembled mapped pathways. The accuracy of these drawings matched shapes that modern scientists study with advanced tools today, even though this book came from a time when such knowledge should not have existed. This discovery raised a new and challenging question. The information in the book did not align with the level of science known at the time, and the team now needed to understand how such knowledge was possible thousands of years ago. Inside the human mind. Because the information in the book did not align with the science of its time, the researchers began examining the diagrams more closely to understand what they described. Many pages showed the human brain in precise shapes and sections, with lines that looked like pathways connecting different parts. Some drawings showed the brain from the side, while others showed inside layers, almost like cross-sections. When these diagrams were compared with modern brain charts, the positions and structures looked very similar, which surprised the team because this level of accuracy usually requires advanced tools. One small gland near the center of the brain was highlighted again and again, as if it had a special role. Another section focused on the front part of the brain, which modern science links to thinking and self-control. The book seemed to treat the brain as more than a body organ, and this opened a deeper question about how the writers understood memory and human awareness. Since the book raised a deeper question about memory and awareness, the researchers began comparing its ideas with records from early civilizations to see if anything similar had appeared before. They studied old texts from India, Egypt, and Mesopotamia, and noticed that many of them also spoke about a shared human awareness, or a state of unity that existed before individual identity. Some ancient writings described the mind as something connected to a larger field, not only as a part of the body. In several cultures, rituals and meditation practices were linked to this idea of expanded awareness, and the descriptions sounded close to the concepts shown in the diagrams from the book. The timing of these traditions also lined up with the same historical period in which the underwater structure was built, which made the pattern even more significant. These similarities suggested that different societies across the world may have preserved traces of the same kind of knowledge, even though they lived far apart and had no direct contact with one another. And this raised a new question about why such knowledge appeared and then slowly disappeared from later history. The choice to forget. Since the book also explained why this knowledge might have been limited, the researchers looked more closely at the last sections to understand how it was used in the past. The writing suggested that early humans may have once lived with a stronger sense of shared awareness, but over time, they moved toward personal identity, so they could live, work, and survive better in the physical world. It described this change not as a loss, but as something necessary for daily life. Some passages warned that returning fully to that earlier state could be difficult because a person might lose their sense of self and struggle to function in normal society. This idea showed similarities to modern cases where people who experience intense awareness or ego loss find it hard to return to regular thinking. From this, the researchers began to see that the book's knowledge was not only about understanding the mind, but also about protecting people from experiences that could overwhelm them, which led to an even more critical question: how and why such knowledge was finally hidden away. Why does it matter? Since the book's message emphasized the protection of knowledge, the researchers also observed a similar pattern following the discovery itself. As the study progressed, access to the artifact was gradually restricted. Some files were removed from public databases, and several research discussions were postponed or canceled. A few team members were advised to stop speaking openly about their work, and certain excavation approvals were no longer renewed. This reaction suggested that the book's information was considered sensitive because it questioned long-held ideas about human history and consciousness. Some experts felt it could be confusing if shared without care. In the end, the discovery not only reveals the past, it also showed how knowledge can still be protected in the present. leaving an open question about whether society is prepared to fully engage with what it contains. This discovery did more than reveal an ancient structure and a mysterious book. It opened questions about human history, memory, and how knowledge is protected across time. Whether the book was hidden for safety or for secrecy, its message shows that some ideas may shape how we understand ourselves. So, what do you think this discovery really means for our past and our future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this video, ensure you give it a thumbs up. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, because we will be uploading more crazy stories like this one in the coming weeks. Until then, see ya.